I always laugh when authors set up two really entertaining things and jump back and forth between them. Oh, you want to see Chihiro and Hiko about to fight, get crazy? Nope, we're going back to Samura. Oh, you want to see what happens to Samura? Nope, going back to Chihiro. That back and forth is funny. As much as it is frustrating, I love it. Because it kind of keeps you on the edge of your seat, you know? What's going to happen next? What are we going to see next? Are we going to get this fight? Are we going to jump back over to there? What's going to bring this all to a halt or a conclusion? And this is a very drastic time. Everything is going into this attack. And for the Hishaku to be successful, they at least need to get one sword. We have two on the playing field. And as soon as that one contract is successfully taken, either by killing Samura or Uraha, that sword will be available. And where are those swords? They're sitting right above Chihiro and Hiko. You don't have that type of setup and then not play on those swords. So unfortunately, Samura or Uraha is dying. And if you want it to be the most powerful it can be, I think Samura has to go. Because that would give everything to Uraha. The direction, the drive, the joining Chihiro, to hunting down Hiko, to trying to get his master's sword back. It feels all too perfect and all too sad. So we have Samura versus Hatshaku, and the Hatshaku guy is very intelligent. I thought he was going to show us a lot of big stuff. I actually thought the fight would be a little bit different, but it's going just as you would kind of expect. The Hatshaku isn't putting himself into danger like you would think, because he doesn't really have to. He has all of these other people, the remaining forces that have the Datenseki stones as well, just piling into this temple trying to take out Samura. But he's also very aware that Samura is a legend and that he's difficult to kill. So instead of actually kind of bombarding him with power, they're attacking him pretty much from all sides intelligently, trying to disorientate him, trying to play against his ability and his non-existent eyesight. That's his power, trying to blow up all of his senses. Samura is overwhelmed and confused and doesn't really know how to handle a lot of these people, but still hanging on, and you can tell he's running out of time though. Hakuri doesn't have that much time either. Like I said last week, it's a race against time. Hakuri has about 10-20 minutes left before he can actually use his ability properly without frying his brain. They need to buy him time. They need to make sure that he's safe because he's crucial to getting the swords back, while also actively knowing, thanks to Chihiro texting him, that this temple is an all-out assault, that everyone is going in here. And that's important to recognize because this means that everyone in this temple can kind of change their approach. Instead of trying to play defensive or try to sneak away or run, if they can actually absorb a lot of the attack and waste all of the Hishaku's momentum, their force basically, then they won't have anything to deal with the remaining temples. But funny enough, this is what Hiko's gambling on. They've taken this into consideration, and the reason why they're doing it is because all they need is a sword. So the value of everything they're about to waste to attack this temple to what they actually gain, which should be a sword, is an equal payoff. But that's the gamble. That's the point. So while Samura's underlings think they are willing to die for this cause, they're kind of also playing into the Hishaku's hand. There is a problem. No one can fight alongside Samura because he mixes friends with foe, and he's also incredibly disorientated because of everything that's happening. However, there is a small group, 3 people, that actually use ninja stealth tactics. They're able to mask their scent, they're able to be silent, and the only way that Samura knows they're there is when the people he's fighting die before he actually hits them. So they join the fight, and it's 2 people we already know, the woman that's healing Hakuri, as well as the guy that's been alongside them, and a small commander child. Reminds me of Captain Levi a little bit. So they are a separate squad, specifically to fight alongside Samura, and this helps balance things out a little bit, but it's not enough. Uraha joins the fight, and you may think, well, wait, hold on, doesn't that make everything pointless? Yes and no. See, Uraha knows exactly how Samura fights. Samura even tries to swipe at him by accident, and while Uraha almost gets killed, he's able to survive it because of his knowledge. So now they're gambling. Uraha is trying to pretty much read everything that Samura is doing while attacking other people, while dodging Samura's attacks. Crazy way to put it, but he's willing to do that to help. Now originally, the woman that's part of that squad was going to send Hakuri away. Take the mandala, take the teleporter thing, you get out of here with the sword bearers, we'll waste all of their attack force. Sounds good, sounds logical, but it doesn't happen. nor would the Hishaku let two sword bearers escape on the mandala. Instead, Hakuri switches on and he pulls through, and the final panel you get is him basically saying that he's willing to sacrifice himself to put his life on the line alongside everybody else and activate his ability when he's clearly not ready to. And this leads to a very interesting situation. I have to start with Hakuri. I love him. I love his performance in this chapter. I love that he's so willing to sacrifice the remaining parts of his life or his brain or whatever to really get into the fight. He knows he's crucial, he knows he's key, and he knows this fight is difficult. It's an uphill battle. Everyone's life is on the line. And he felt like he was being kind of a burden by sitting there laying on bed waiting for his powers to come back. And I think it's that realization and seeing everyone fight so drastically is what pushes him to activate his ability. Mind you, it's kind of like a perfect storm situation. I was curious on how one of the swords might potentially come back. Of course, Hakuri is the only one that can do that, but it's probably going to split the swords. Naturally, you'd think, okay, because he doesn't have much energy, because he can probably only do this once, if he can make it, he can't get close to Samura. They can try and clear a path for him, but I don't think it's that easy. Uraha, on the other hand, is someone that he can approach. And I think that is what Hokusona is going to do, is play on who actually gets the sword. Is it going to be Samura or is it going to be Uraha? And probably led with a lot of misdirection. I think Uraha gets his sword, which would take one of them away from Chihiro and Hiko. But while he gets his sword, Samura gets killed. Like I said before, Perfect Storm feels like a great battlefield, a foundation of what comes next. I really want to see Uraha use his sword. Seeing that anger and rage potentially from Samura's death would just be insanity. And seeing how the Hatshaku guy would actually deal with it would be interesting as well. I would say a lot of the members from the Hishaku need to be killed. We can't take this huge attack force that they have over to the remaining temples. That's just unfair. So what is the best way to cleave them out? To have Uraha use his sword. I think this is what Hakuri can muster up. His ability seems fragile and broken. I don't think he's able to bring both swords back. I'm not sure if I'm mentally prepared for Samura dying though. I really like his character, but the small interaction in here between Samura and Uraha just makes me think, yep, it's perfect timing. Uraha saying that he's been watching him this whole time, fully understands his ability and how he attacks and the drawing style of his sword. It feels all too tragic and perfect to watch his master die, his sword contract get taken away, given to Hiko, and then that rage comes out. Gives a whole new purpose and reasoning for Uraha to join Chihiro to try and get his master's sword back, because that would jump us back into Chihiro's fight. So one sword goes to Samura's temple, Uraha's, and the other sword goes to Hiko. I think this is going to happen instantly. I imagine we jump back to Hiko's fight and hopefully we get to see him use Samura's sword. Now we do know that there's a level of adaptation to these swords, right? You can't just use them instantly off the bat, so I'm curious on how adaptable Hirohiko can actually be. That's part of his character. That's the reason why Yura likes him to begin with. They want him to wield the sword. Is it going to be shaky or rocky or difficult to use, or is the energy that Hiko has, the willingness, the eagerness to fight Chihiro to death, will that prevail? It feels kind of crazy to have both swords activate under different circumstances, but symbolically, thematically, it feels too perfect to not do. Uraha getting his sword back through rage and anger, Hiko getting this sword through desire and eagerness to kill Chihiro and fight him to the death. It's a beautiful thing, but incredibly tragic. I know a lot of us don't want Samura to die, but genuinely, he's on the chopping block and he's a little bit too powerful to keep within the story. Of course, there's a lot of ways that you could go about it, but this chapter for me confirms his death, that it's most likely going to happen. And I'd be surprised if it didn't. So I'll leave that little thread open. If Hokusona wants to shock and surprise everyone by not actually killing Samura, maybe there's something else here. But so far, logically, all the stars are kind of aligning that way perfectly. Their swords split, they both have their fights, and it's absolutely incredible. I'm excited to see what Hokusona does. I'm excited to see how he draws these swords, because we still don't really know what they are or how they could be visualized, what they represent, you know what I mean? We have ideas and theories, but how it's drawn is a whole different thing, and the wielder using it obviously having their own effect. I, for one, alongside probably all of you, am very excited to see how this all goes down.